Okay, so we've got a little beat. It's kind of wavy. Next thing we're going to do is add some melodies and chords using a kind of piano sound. Now, the way I'm going to show you how to do this is not the kind of traditional way that people write chords. I thought I'd just say that straight away. What this is a way for you to do it even if you don't know too much about piano, don't know too much about music theory. And the reason I'm showing you it this way is because I've just noticed this is how a lot of people are making these beats, and there's a kind of sound you get from this approach that is actually kind of hard to get. I mean, I play a little bit of piano and it's actually quite hard to play it on the piano, whereas if you build it up in this way that I'm going to show you, it'll kind of give you the sound. So the first thing we want to do is go to sounds here, go to piano, and we want something that sounds like a real piano. So I'm going to go for this one, grand piano. So I'm going to load that up. Now can you see I'd clicked on that MIDI channel first, double click that, and now that's loaded here. Now you see you've got some controls down here, but we're going to leave those alone for now. We're going to do the same thing, double click here to create this, and then now you can kind of hear that I can click on these notes and it's going to show us what those notes sound like. Now to start with, what we want to do is come up with what's called a melody, which is basically just a few notes in a row that we think sounds cool. And the vibe that we're going for is we want it to kind of sound dark, spooky, a little bit kind of creepy. That's sort of the sound we're going for. So I'm going to put in some notes pretty much at random here, and we're going to have a listen and see how it sounds. And then I'll show you again how we're going to tweak this, how we're going to turn it into a piano part. And really what I'm doing here is experimenting with, first of all, the melody, and then adding some layers of harmony to that melody. So let's play that. Okay, there's some stuff there I kind of like. I'll show you one little trick straight away. This is a great trick in Ableton. Select those notes, click this little button here, legato. You see what that did? Lengthened all those notes out. So now if I play that, now what I'm noticing straight away is this second note, because we're using the white keys, if you know a bit about music theory, you'll realise we're starting on C, and then we're going to that white note, which is also in the C major scale. Because it's C major, major sounds kind of happy, and happy is not what we want this beat to sound like. So I'm going to use the arrow keys on my computer. I'm just going to tweak it. Now that's sounding more spooky to me, so I'm happier with it. But at the moment, for me, this sounds like it's moving a bit too quickly. It's a bit kind of dun 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 dun. So we're going to do the same thing we did before, duplicate loop. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some notes out, make some of these notes longer, again using the legato button. Let's try that. Now, what I'm going to do is really just experiment here. Use the arrow keys again, move them sideways. Now some of this is sounding kind of cool. What I really want to do is get some slightly longer chords going on for this first half. So you can see what I've done, I've stretched out those ones. Okay, so I'm kind of feeling how that's sounding. What I might try doing now is adding what I mentioned before, harmony. So these notes, because it's just one note at a time, is what's called a melody. If we start to stack notes on top of these, what we're going to get is chords, and that will give you harmonies. So let's try, again, pretty much at random. I'm going to just add notes and see what it sounds like. And again, this is a thing where it's quite important as a producer to be able to experiment and just use your ears, listen and think, do I like how this sounds? It's not necessarily about knowing the rules and sticking to them, but if you can listen to things and actually work it out using your ears, that's a really good skill to have. So let's have a listen. Now it's quite clashy, what you can call discordant, kind of sounds a bit clashy and a bit off, but then that's kind of what I'm going for here, so that might not be a problem. One other thing you get quite a lot with these rap beats, especially these kind of darker ones, is notes repeating. Sometimes people call that a pedal note. if you really want to get into it. But sometimes that really works. If you've got these notes changing and the note up here staying the same, that might sound good. So let's try that. So did you hear what I did there? I actually left that one the same and I moved this one. Again, I'm using my ears just to think, right, what kind of sounds good here? Let's try that. Now that definitely doesn't sound how I want it to sound, so I'm doing Command Z is undo. You can go undo move notes here, but Command Z, if you do that on the keyboard, or Windows Z, it's a really good shortcut to learn. Definitely good to get on top of learning shortcuts and using those, because it'll really help speed things up for you. I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to extend that one. Okay, not into this one. And what I'm doing here is I'm just thinking, right, which of these bits do I like? Which bits do I not like? So, okay, that sounded a bit better. So what I was deciding is, okay, these three pairs of notes sound good, so I'm going to keep those. You see what I did there? Select these, hover over the end to get that little bracket symbol, and I'm just going to shrink those down. Right, now what I might do is, again, lengthen that. Okay, so that to me is starting to sound like kind of what I want, like a bit of a spooky kind of dark piano thing. I might do the same thing I did before, duplicate that so we get a longer loop. And then what I'm going to do now as well, you see what I've done is I've clicked and dragged up to turn these two up. Now A and B here, what that does is send some of this piano over here to the reverb and delay. If you haven't used reverb and delay before, reverb is a really good way to kind of give the impression that the sound you're making is in a bigger space, so it can make it sound like it's in a huge arena or a hall or a cave or whatever kind of thing you're going for. And delay is more like an echo. When you shout and you hear it echo back, that's what a delay does. So the reverb, double click there, you can see that's there. I'm going to turn up the decay time to make it sound like a bigger space, and the delay, I'm going to change the length of it. So let's try that and maybe turn up that. So again, what I was doing is just listening to it. The S button there is solo. So if you ever want to hear one thing on its own, just click the S and you'll hear just that part on its own. So that's the drums soloed, that's that's the piano solo. So with the delay, all I was doing is playing around with it, seeing again what I thought sounded good. Cool, so if I stop this, what we've got now is some drums and a kind of idea for the piano. Now, what I was doing here, don't worry if you spend quite a while on this finding the chords. This is kind of the fun creative part, and it might take you ages to get something you actually like, but just don't be afraid to use your ears. Make sure you think it sounds good. If it sounds good to you, it is good. That's basically the rules as far as I'm concerned. So next up, we're going to look at creating a bass line.